In this tutorial, we're going to look how we can programmably change the screen using a screen select variable, and how we can use strings within CX Designer to link them back to integer values. So let's get started. First of all, I've created a variable called screen select, and I've given it an address of D500. That's an arbitrary address I just picked. I'm going to select it. I'm going to do Control C. And in CX Designer, I'm going to select the symbol table, and I'm going to do Control V to copy it in. Screen Select is now available within CX Designer, so I'm going to go into the Systems tab. I'm going to go to System Settings. I'm going to select the Initialization tab, and these two values here, I'm going to set 1. I'm going to press Screen Select, and I'll do this one as well. For the moment, that's good enough. In a later tutorial, we'll go through what they actually mean. So now we can programmably set the screen from CX Programmer using this variable screen select, which is a value of D900 or D500. With that done, I'm going to select screen 0, and I'm going to place 3 multifunction buttons here. 1, 2, 3. You can see here that what I've actually selected is a model with only black and white, so these are only available in black and white. So as asked before, how do I change that? I can go to Tools, Convert, and Model here, and I'm going to select this one instead, the NS5TQ1 V2, which is what we have in the lab. Select OK, yes to all. I need to give it a new name, so I'll call it _1. I'm going to press OK or save. That's saved, and you can see now my buttons are in color. So I'm just going to line these up very roughly. I'm going to select one of these 3 buttons, Dublin, Cork, Limerick, and that will change on the next screen. We're going to add one more screen. On the following screen, that will change the label to a link to the variable that we've set. So let's go back to CX Programmer. In CX Programmer, I'm going to select a new variable, insert variable or insert symbol, and this symbol is going to be called ticket type. It's going to be ticket type ID, and it's going to be of type int, and I'll put this in D5. So this is my ticket type ID, and this is what I'm going to be changing. So in my particular case, if this value is 1, it's going to be Dublin, 2, it's going to be Cork, and 3, it's going to be Limerick. So there's my ticket type ID, and I have my screen select. So we're going to add a HMI button. You've seen these from my previous video. So this is just a virtual button. I'm just going to use the prefix HMI just so I know, and I'm going to call it next. So this is going to be my next button within my HMI, and this is going to be a Boolean, and I can put this into the working registry as 0.0. So W0.0, and I'm going to click OK. So now I've got 3 variables, screen select, ticket type, and my next button. I've got my 3 variables, and I'm going to copy the 2, ticket type and HMI next, and I'm going to copy them into CX Designer. In CX Designer again, common settings, symbol table, and Control V, and there they are added. So let me add a 3rd button. This can just be a simple push button, and I'm going to put that there as my next button. So 3 buttons and next. So let's get back into my code. Very straightforward code here. It's going to be if HMI, so my input is HMI underscore next. That's my contact, and all we're going to do is we're going to move the screen. So it's going to be the move command, MOV space, and we're going to put in a hash, and it's going to be 0, or so it's going to be 1 because it's screen number 1. So I'm going to put in 00 0001. So hash 0001. The 000s, the leading zeros, aren't important, but I'll just put them in for completeness. And we're going to say space again, and it's going to be D500 because that's what we want to move this screen to select. Go OK. And now when I press the HMI button, it's going to move the screen index from hash 0001, which is a hexadecimal value, from the screen select. And that's all my code. So my 3 buttons are set up here. I still have my 3 buttons. Let me set up my next button first. Go to label. I'm just going to give this a label. This is a simple push button. So next. And what we're writing, and we're going to write the HMI next. So there's my next button. And these are my 3 buttons: Dublin, Cork, Limerick. Or it could be Dublin, London, wherever you like. So let's go to the Dublin button. Now these are different because they're a multifunction button. So we don't want to write a bit in this case. We want to write a word. So I'm going to change that to click on the right and write word. We want to write an integer, and we want to write that to the value ticket type. Going to set the value, and my first value is going to be 1, which is going to be Dublin. I'm going to click OK, and label. I can just go Dublin. My next one here is going to be Cork. So again, I don't want to write a bit, I want to write a word, and I want this word to be linked to ticket type ID, and this time it's going to be 2. And again, my label, Cork. And the last one is going to be Limerick. And that's going to be Limerick, and go OK. So we've got our 3 buttons set up, and we've got our next ID, our next button. Let's add our screen. So let's just have a quick look at the screen numbers. So you can see the value of this screen is hex 0000. So I'm going to add a new screen. And this is going to be screen number 1. Just yes. And you can see this value is hex 0001, which is what I put into my code. So that's what we're using in the move value. On this screen, I'm going to add a label here. And my label is set up by default. Going to double click. And I'm going to go to label. And now I have this opportunity here to use indirect referencing to string. So I'm going to call my file name cities, and I'm going to go edit. Tells me the file name hasn't been completed yet, or isn't created yet, and it just gives me a simple text file here, and I'm going to put in my cities list. Dublin. So this is number 1 on my list, number 2, and number 3. So if it's set to 1, set to 2, set to 3. And I'm going to click OK. And do I want to save it? Yes. And now that's set. I need to put in an address. And again, I'm going to link this one to ticket type ID. And I'm going to press OK. So there you go. That's going to change my label. And I want to maybe put in another button. This time I'm going to use a multifunction button again. And this time my button's going to be a back button. But instead of writing a bit, what I want to do is I want to switch screen. So I'm going to go switch screen. And where do I want to switch screen to? Back to screen number 0. Let me change the label. And let's go back. So this is 2 different ways you can switch screen programmably and using a multifunction button. So that's going to be my back button. With that done, let's just run this and check if it works. To debug, I'm going to go Tools, Test, Save All. I'm going to select Connect to CX Simulator, and I'm going to go Start. Remember, you can only have one CX programmer running, or else you'll get an error. So CX programmer is up, and it's in debug mode. And here's my screen. I'll just zoom in. I'm going to press Dublin, select next, and now my label says Dublin. Back, Cork, next, and says Cork. Limerick, and it says Limerick. So that works. Why you'd want to use this if you have a multilingual application, so maybe you want different languages and you could select a different value based on the language type. So this could have been Dublin, or it could be Ascuilga, Baile Ardclia, or it could be whatever, French, German. And next, Limerick, back. There you go. Hope that helped, and talk to you all later.